Welcome back everyone to Let's Play Rule the Waves 2 as Japan episode number 45, and this will be the shortest episode I've ever done on Rule the Waves. I'm expecting maybe a 10-minute episode, so if you're looking at the time and wondering what the hell is going on, it's completely intentional. Well, not completely. It's intentional that this is a 10-minute video because it's a 10-minute remake. Well, apparently I was on the way to upload the next video, and that was actually already this was Saturday. When I was trying to publish it on Saturday, and then I was like, what the hell, this is, I was just rewatching the video before I published it, and I was, this doesn't make sense from the last one, there's one missing. So I don't know what happened. Normally, it's every now and then I do have corrupted videos, and it's very rare, but I just re-record. And I do keep a copy of the save game for Rule the Waves for that. That's why we're seeing this is the end of 44. So this is the start of 45. But essentially what I'm trying to say is video 45 as it should have been done doesn't exist, but the save game does, and I've already done episode 46, so we're going to continue with the timeline. Now, what I'm going to do is just try to recap the things which happened in episode 45. That's why it'll be a short video, because it'll essentially be a summary, and I will surely be missing some stuff. Nonetheless, the thing I can be grateful for is the fact that I have the design. I think it was a shorter video, and it was a lot about ship design, because I only made it to October 1934, which is, it's just a few months. In fact, the Pure and Soko didn't even get out. So I think the Gachimuchis are out. We'll pan forward to the next one, but essentially there's a couple of things, a couple of talking points that I believe that they were in 45. They might have been in 44 or 46, so pardon me if these are redundant, but I don't have those binned in my brain. So at the risk of saying things multiple times, the real pleasure of this time period, these few episodes, is it's one of the rare moments in Rule the Waves, only because I myself am going to decide it, and that's actually, without spoiling it, we'll see what happens in video 46, but this is one of the few times where I know exactly who my opponent will be, and I know exactly when they will be my opponent because I'm dictating it. And it does seem, I think, a little bit unusual that we don't have a little bit more control of that. Not who you go to war with, that's certainly outside of the hands of the Secretary, the Navy person, but I feel like it's basically just a big question. When Japan was already at war, this is World War II, or even in World War I, there was an opportunity and the Japanese took it. Do you think that the Navy was not involved in the decision making? There are some pop-up decisions which seem like they could potentially emulate this, but I feel like it could be done better. Okay, this strategic level has always been just a strategic level to the developer focus for this game has always been the tactical level, but I've always seen so much more potential at the strategic level. Anyways, that's essentially what I'm saying. So, and this probably is a talking point from episode 46, but one of the weird things is the way invasions are done, how we as the head of the Navy don't have a say. I'm trying to imagine a situation. I'm going to take Yamamoto as the head of the Japanese Navy in World War II. I guess there was one superior to him, but he seemed like he was the decision maker, the shot caller. And certainly we play the role of Yamamoto at the tactical level. It feels like this has always been a weird thing, right? The disconnect. The battle generator is a huge disconnect between the player's role in the game at the strategic level, and then suddenly their role at the tactical level. We play the first top, strategic tier, which is the head of the Navy, and then we go down to the Admiral, but we don't play the middle ground, which is so weird to me. We basically play the Rear Admiral and the head of the Navy, but we don't play the Fleet Admiral role, which is so weird. And what I'm trying to say is, do you think that the Navy person doesn't have a say? Do you think that the people at the top of the Japanese Navy did not partake in the planning of what to attack at the outset of war? It's a little bizarre. You can be saying this about other things. Do you think that the British I guess for them it was, I actually know the title, Lord of the Navy? Is it First Sea Lord? I can't remember the name. Sorry, but do you think that they didn't have a say in what in like going over and seizing the French ships, or any kind of attack on Italians? Let's see, what's another example? There's not too many that are coming to mind right away, but essentially we just put a bunch of ships. This is okay. Surprise attack stuff is only relevant to Japan, right? Because that's only a Japanese mechanic. It feels like to me, when you put a bunch of your ships in a sea zone, you should get a say about what port you want to attack. I mean, I know that the battle generator has to do a lot of abstraction, but okay. Anyways, this is a 5-minute rant, which is the only purpose of it is to say I wish that we had more control over the battle generation, which has been a constant lament. And this was through the vantage point, through the particular perspective of Japanese surprise attacks, that I feel like the Secretary of Navy, whatever that role is in the Imperial Japanese Navy, I feel like they would have a say about what place was being attacked. Like, I don't think that somebody just said, hey, we're going to move a bunch of ships over into the Central Pacific, and hopefully they pick a good target. It could be Midway, it could be Pearl Harbor, but I imagine that it was a premeditated decision for a long time from the top. So, okay. So that's the kind of fun situation we're in, is that we get a chance to, without doing the surprise attack side of things, at least from the strategic point, we know that we're going to be going to war soon. Rant over about all that. That's just something that it's really cool to have that. It's kind of a really, I have been brainstorming and even trying to make a game of my own, and it's kind of fun to see what things just tickle me pink. What are the things that I really enjoy in Rule the Waves that I can try to extract the base mechanic of that and use that in another game, or recommend it for another game, as that's really fun for me. And having the ability to plan ahead, having this we have a plan, we're going to get in motion, and we all know no plan survives first contact with the enemy, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just nice to have some plan going forward. It is interesting that Rule the Waves also has this random mechanic, because it does show you that the Navy, I mean, obviously this is random, real life diplomacy is not completely random the way it is here, but it's kind of interesting to have to respond to the political scene, which is what they make you do, and because it's random, you can't anticipate it. In fact, that's worse than the real life example, where I'm sure that Germany did have a strong idea even 4 years before World War I that Great Britain would have been their biggest potential opponent. I mean, it was clear, right? But you can't really say that in this game. You're just as likely to go to war with Russia as you are with Great Britain. I mean, at any point in time, it's just random, right? And we expect, if the pseudo-random number generator is working properly, that each result is equally weighted. Okay, let's get to the game itself. That's my... I need to fill time, right, for episode 45, because this will be a lot shorter. So, we have this budget issue, and I think the main way I'm going to be trying to solve it is by mothballing. So, we'll see, picking up in October, when I pan over to the end of this episode 45, so we'll see the beginning of 1946. We'll try to compare the different things, but I think one of the main points was wait for all these ships to get back to Northeast Asia and then mothball them. And the idea is, because we know exactly when our next war should be, this is all fake, by the way. Anything I do in this game, any of the technology, we have no idea anything that was researched is going to stay researched, because I already have episode 46 done. That's ready to go, and the good news is I'll be able to get that one out. This will be a shorter video, so I'll be able to get that one out in 2 days, pretty quickly. Wash the bad taste of this failed 45 out of our mouths. Me in particular, it was really, there's just nothing worse than actually putting in the 45 minutes into an episode and then not actually having anything to show for it. It's just a waste of time. But the worst thing about this is it's completely my fault. I assume I just deleted it too early, or the upload, I canceled it, or I don't know what happened. So anyway, so we're looking at trying to mothball as much as possible because we know we know exactly when the next war is going to be since we dictate it, which means we can actually have this cool cycle. Did I mention this already? Like I said, there might be duplicate, but we have this cool cycle of being able to put ships to reserve. I would put them mothball first, and then, maybe like 6 months before we want to go to war, or maybe 8 months before we go to war, we're like, okay, let's take them off mothball, let's get them to reserve, start ramping up their crew quality. And then maybe 4 months before we go to war, we say, let's go to active fleet. You don't almost never have this luxury. You don't know how tensions are going to evolve. And that's interesting, but it's also, to me, it's really interesting to have, at the same time, to have this idea that you do know where things are going for once. It's kind of cool. Like, I like the randomness, but I also think that sometimes it would be nice if the game, World Waves in particular, added a more linear progression, something where you know what's happening. It's nice. It's a change of pace. Maybe that's why it's so refreshing, because it's different than the norm. But so I don't know what I ended up mothballing, but I basically know that everything but 2 Daigojis could be mothballed. There is a complaint if you try to mothball everything. I think what I did is not mothball completely the carriers. These go to reserve, and then, did I already do this? Yeah, we're already all on reserve here, which is good. And you can see we already have solved the monthly balance issue. So we're 1 month away. Let's get to the main design that I made in the last, in the universe you'll never know existed. Let's do another design, and let me take a look at the almanac real fast, kind of see where we are with Great Britain. We have 4, but that's not true. We have 7 total battleships. They have 25. They have 12 battle cruisers. They have 3 aircraft carriers already, and we only have 2, but we have 4 more being built, and 3 of those will be built in time. We have 2 light carriers versus their 5, so you can see that they actually are already pretty well equipped from a carrier standpoint. We have 5 heavy cruisers. They have 1. We have 8 light cruisers. They have 18. So you can see that although the ratio over here is something like, I'm just going to be generous and call it 4-1, or that's not generous, that's a rough approximate, and say 4-1. So although this is like a 4-1 ratio, the big Dreadnought battleship stuff, including battle cruisers, we are about 1-1, maybe slightly under that. About 1-1 though with carriers, because we'll have 5 out and they'll have 4. Our tonnage will be much better than theirs, and they will have more light carriers, but I think I would treat 1 carrier as acting as 3 light carriers, just purely based on the number of aircraft that they're carrying. 3 times my light carrier is more or less my new fleet carriers. But then when it comes down to cruisers, this ratio drops from 4-1 or 1-1. Well, the 1-1 that's my initiative. So let's just stick with the example of 4-1, or maybe I should be actually taking a look at all these together as capital ships and then these as escorts. So the ratio anyways drops down from 4-1 of the battleships to 13, 19, not even 2-1. It's actually like 3-2. And yeah, I suppose that my point is, although it's 3-1 in destroyers, so we can probably just call it, blanket it as 2-1. That's a lot of destroyers. That's good to see. Actually, I had this is one of the ideas I had. I think I'm not sure where I'm going to be talking about these various things, but one of my ideas is you could probably do a playthrough where you only use battleships and destroyers. Like the middle area here, I think that it would have been interesting to see a world without a Washington Naval Treaty. What would have happened? We should have, I assume that the full rock, paper, scissors is important because you have different ship rules, right? We don't need, destroyers can probably do a lot of the things that we want. A lot of the heavy cruisers and light cruisers we saw from World War II was really born out of the arms limit that you couldn't make more bigger ships, would have been interesting to see what would have happened without that. Would there have been heavy cruisers at all? Would you have just gone with a destroyer and then an anti-destroyer and then a battleship? Well then, yeah, I mean, obviously it begs the question, don't you need an anti-destroyer? So that's your heavy cruiser to your light cruiser type stuff. I don't know. It's a continuum, but there's discrete points. It's a whole spectrum, but we have to pick discrete points to build our roles around. So, wow. So we might end up getting a full episode out of this just because I'm rambling so long. So let me actually get to the design, which I decided to go with after looking at this and everything else and just informing my thoughts about our destroyers being a little bit behind. I decided to go with a new destroyer. So that's what I did. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go through from like my whole decision-making point because I already know what my final design looks like. In fact, I have it up on my second monitor here. So let's take what they offered, and I think that the game actually generated for me a 5-inch gun one. We can see that we have up to 2,000 tons available to us, and we can get, so if I go back down to 4-inch guns, we can get the 4 dual 4-inch guns. We can't use dual purpose yet because if I leave that checked, we have not developed main armament dual purpose guns for destroyers yet. It'll be coming. I think I research it. I think if it's not researched during 46, then it was researched during 45. Of course, after I built this. And the main thing is we all know my destroyers. What is their purpose? Their anti-destroyer capability is truly secondary to their torpedo threat. So let's start with thinking about dual purpose because that's their other role now is we'd like them to do dual purpose. Take down the guns per turret to that. And for 3-inch guns, it looks like I tried to finish with 8. We can get these as dual purpose. Now, we're a little bit shy on tonnage right now. I'm going to get rid of the aft superimposed for now. And then I think, is it possible to do 5-inch guns? Now, we're overweight here. We don't have the topside weight. Okay, I'm going to get rid of light AA altogether. That would only help my destroyers defending against aircraft attacks on themselves. Which is just not at all my goal. I do want active fleet, so there is 2 different submarine mechanics. There's the trade protection aspect where you want to protect your merchant ships, and that's trade protection ships. But there's also those events where you're like a submarine torpedo to your battleship or your cruiser or whatever, and then it goes into the dock, or God forbid it's actually sunk. And that relies on your active fleet ASW values. So we actually want this ship, even though it's surely destined for active fleet, not trade protection, we still want it to have a very high ASW value. So we're going to go with 4K guns. I don't have 6 unlocked yet. I think that we will eventually be able to get 6. We take the light AA away. We already know in our heads that mines will be the last number I put in. That'll be the fill. Just going to, whatever tonnage is remaining, we do that. Okay, so then obviously we're overweight. We go back down to 4-inch guns. And now we're underweight slightly, which is fantastic. One of the things I'd like to do is increase, because rounds per guns does impact your secondaries as well. We'll increase this. It looks like I took it up to 170. Yeah. Now there's something not quite right yet. So 2,000 at 34 knots. And I was playing a lot with the speed here. You can see that dropping down to 33 gets us down from 35 free tons to 120. So 85 tons to get this last knot of speed. It's always interesting to me the how like the horrible rate of diminishing returns on increasing speed compared to like the huge cost investment for engine weight or just ship tonnage available. Yeah, it doesn't actually look that much worse going, so this is like 100, so from 85 to 100, I guess that is bad, yeah. So knowing me, of course, I'm seeing that there's a strong incentive to do the 33 knots, but mainly what I was looking at is, okay, how much cheaper would this be? We can get 1,800 at 33 knots, doing this. 20 tons. I feel like there's something missing still. 8. Forward, aft, 18, 18, 25. Yeah, that looks good. Another reason to use the 4-inch guns is we have quality 1 available. Oh, yes, there is something missing. So I talked about this, how I like torpedoes, and we have 2 here already. Actually, funny, I'll bring over my ship design that I just copied over in Paint, but I'll do that in a moment. This, by the way, won't be called this. It'll be called the Yokozuna. There it is. Yokozuna is the name for this. I'm going to add yet another quad launcher. Yeah, this is actually slightly different. I see the forward superstructure is slightly different. This one actually looks better, frankly, but don't get used to it, basically. So, we're way overweight. What happened? Oh, yeah, because we're at 1,800 tons. So we go to 19, no, okay, but I was able to get, yes, okay, speed. We're going to go to speed here. Now we could knock this down to 1,833, and this is 8.1 million, which rings true. So I was looking at this, and I was saying, okay, here is one variety, 8.1 million. 8.1 million. Or I can get 34 knots, and that seems to 170, too much free space available. 4. I didn't see what this is. No, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have any float planes. 34, speed, oil. Oh yeah, unit machinery. Because I think the main way that ships, destroyers are going to die is by losing speed. So this, I think it's really worth it. It's only 26 knots, or 26 tons. And I think that this will probably save my my destroyers a lot. Like, the main reason they die, obviously, they get an engine hit or something, and then they can't get out of the way. They mainly, destroyers just live or die based on their engines. So to me, unit machinery makes a lot of sense. That leaves us with 13 tons remaining, which I just dump into the mines. And this is exactly the Yokozuna, which I came up with. And I'm a really, really, really big fan of this ship. So I can see that this video is already gone 20 minutes. It's already much more than the... How do I get you back? There we go. It's already much more than I expected it would be. I expected this to be like a 10-minute video, but you can see that the Yokozuna was fun to design, took quite a little while. And this is 9 million, so you can see that the trade-off between... Oh, we'd have to get rid of unit machinery as well. So 8.1 versus all those things, we add them back. You can see that it's only 9 million. So it's a 10% increase. We get unit machinery, we get some mines, we get 1 extra knot. I'm okay with it like this. So that's the Yokozuna. And that's really, let me just jump cut over to the current version. We'll see if there's anything else I missed, but mainly I think it was the Yokozuna. Okay, we are now back. It's October 1934. This is where episode 46 will begin. And you can see the state of affairs. Mainly it's what I said. We mothballed pretty much everything. Got some ships, the Ashigars I guess I left on reserve. Mothballed all of these. It was all about budget savings, and we're going to finish with the... we did not even finish with the Gachimuchis yet. Was that 4 months? Have we only been through July, August? September? Wow, I didn't even go far enough. Well, it's a good thing this is a short video, even though it's no longer short. Hey, you know what? Like I said, the Yokozuna, you can see that only difference here is the superstructure in the front. The other one had a little tapering right in between the conning tower and the front superfiring turret. Anyway, it looked nicer, but this is still a great ship. Really happy with it. We'll be getting a bunch of those, and they will definitely... they're going to be the lead destroyer for a long time to come. So I think I'll just leave it here. Everything else it was just money balancing, and I don't even know. I just talk a lot, I guess, because I can see it evident in this video. But it was a fun episode. I remember making 45, and even though it was like only 35 minutes, I was like, oh, that was a good one still. And I feel the same way about this. It's kind of fun to talk about these other things. You know, you take a moment to step away from Rule the Waves, being immersed in it, and just talking about, oh, what are the game mechanics which are cool? Something like where you're actually targeting a war in like a year or something. That's fun. Having a deadline. It's fun to have deadlines, right? Not really, but sometimes it's fun to have fake deadlines in your fake reality. So anyways, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you back for episode 46. Like I said, I'll try to get that out in just 2 more days. Although I do need to start getting a backlog going. I'll be gone for a little bit after next weekend. So until the next one, thanks for watching and stay safe. Take care.